E.A. Wallis Budge rewrote the Dwellers on the Nile, the life history, religion, and literature of the ancient Egyptians. We are continuing in chapter 1, the mother, the family, the home, and the school. And by rewrote, I mean that he made some revisions on his book. But we've already gone into that, so. Okay, so some names in the Bible. Ragimus are Ra-mus-sus. And other variants of Ramses are Raya-mus, Ra-mus-sus, Raya-mus-sus, and Ra-mus-sus are Ra-mus-sus-wu. This was the personal name of 12 kings of Egypt, and it indicated that the king was considered to be a son of God, the Sa-Ra. And it was Ra who had produced him. In Hebrew, it appears as the name of a city in the eastern delta, Ramesses. Exodus 1:2, built by Ramses II. The city was near Pithom. In Egyptian, we have Puryetum is a site of which is marked by the ruins of Tal al-Mashkuta in the Wadi Tumilat. Shishak is mentioned in Kings 11:40. In Egyptian, Shashank of the 22nd dynasty. Okay, so the third is So, king of Egypt, 2 Kings 17:4. In Egyptian, we have Shabaka, the first king of the 25th dynasty. We have Tirhakah, 2 Kings 19:9, and Isaiah 37:9. In Egyptian, it's Tahulk, and also as Taherk, not Taherk, shouldn't say it's not the throaty H, or Taharqa. Necho is in 2 Chronicles 35:20 and 2 Kings 23:29. In Egyptian, it's Nakau or Nakau. Oh, well, that's the same, isn't it? And that is from the 26th dynasty. Hophra, Jeremiah 44:30. In Egyptian, we have Ra-Wahab, and that is from the 26th dynasty. We have Pharaoh. In Egyptian, the great house, in which all Egyptians took asylum. So like Nimrod and some other things, it's the title we have Potipharah, Genesis 41, 45. In Hebrew, we have Puthi Pra and Potiphar. In Egyptian, we have Ra, 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 Ray. The gift of Ra, or him whom Ra gave. Oh, that's a T. So Ra, Ate, Ra, Ra, Ray. Potipharah was the priest of On, so Inu, so it's a double N. He messed up with the pronunciation a lot. Whose daughter Joseph married, but he's better than a lot of them apparently. A shortened version of the name occurs in Genesis 37:36, where we have Puthi-per, Potiphar. Asnath, the daughter of Potipharah, priest of On, who married Joseph. This name seems to be undoubtedly Egyptian, and it is possible that it represents some name like Naseh, belonging to Neith. Others would make it Yust, Neith. Zaphenath, Paniath, from Genesis 41:45, the name which appears given to Joseph by the Egyptians appears in Hebrew as Sapnat Mamnj, and probably represents the Egyptian Jud, Ra, Achur, Yif, Anks. Speaks the God he lives, or the God spake, and he came to life. If we omit the vowels from the Hebrew form of the name, it will be seen that the consonants represent remarkably well the Egyptian words. Shah as Chud, Pa as Ra, Nut as Nutcher, Pa as Fe, Anch as Anksnux. Its rapid pronunciation, and they're getting rumbly in the tumblies. Right there. The d of jud would not be heard. The sign is the determinative, which would be placed, the sign of the man, going like, sitting, hold his hand up, now would be placed after a man's name and would not be pronounced. Well, yeah, that's obvious. Under the New Kingdom, many Egyptian names had this form. Chud and Ri, Uf. Chud and her youth ox. Chud Kst Su youth ox next. Chud her youth ox next. And other sorts of things like that. From a religious point of view, a man's name formed a very important part of his spiritual economy, and his very existence, certainly in the other world, depended on its preservation. To destroy the name was equivalent to destroying the person who bore it, and to mutilate and obliterate the name of the deceased from his tomb was to doom him to oblivion, both in this world and in the kingdom of Osiris. And Aramea has less sounds, so you'd expect some difference there, but there's naturally some difference between how terms are said in different languages, even when you're basically following the same etymology. In the inscriptions found in the tombs of the Middle Kingdom, the visitor who hates death and loves life is entreated by the deceased to pray that offerings, beautiful, sweet, and pure of all kinds, may be given to the ka of the deceased, whose name is given at full length, for by doing so he would make the name of the deceased to live. Many statues from the tombs bear inscriptions which state that they have been placed there by sons or wives of the deceased person in order to make their names to live. Pious sons not only repaired or restored the masonry of their fathers' tombs, but took care to recruit the damaged inscriptions, both inside and outside. It was thought that a man might lose his memory in the other world, and so forget his name, and a spell was included in the Book of the Dead, chapters 25, to prevent this from happening to the deceased. In the chapter of the heart, 30b, in the same work, the deceased prays that his name may not be made distinct before Chakjao, are judges in the judgment hall of Osiris. The nameless spirit could not be judged, and therefore could not enjoy everlasting fire and its happiness in the kingdom of Osiris. The early kings of Egypt thought more of preserving their names than of recording their exploits. The pyramids of the 6th dynasty contain long prayers for the preservation of the names of the kings who built them, and of the state and later periods of Egyptian history. The scribes composed a special work, the recital of which, on behalf of the deceased, would ensure the preservation of his name, entitled, May My Name Flourish. Thutmose III cut out the names of Hatshepsut from her monuments, with the view of destroying her existence, and Amenhotep IV cut out the names of Amen and the word for the gods from the monuments, thinking that by doing so he would cause them to cease to be. And, well, I am trying to preserve names from gravestones, for one thing, but let's see if I can do some video today towards that end. In Egypt, the children of the rich and poor alike went about naked during the earliest years of their existence. The children of the rich and well-to-do folk played with balls made of rags, dolls made of wood and rags, and figures of animals and birds, etc., with movable legs and heads. Peasants' children played with each other and laid and rolled about in the dust near their fathers' houses, and threw balls of mud at each other, and made friends with the cows and goats and pigeons. Even when quite young, they helped their elders to tend the cattle and drive them to the canals or water channels to drink, and to keep the goats from straying. The children of slaves were made to work at a very early age, and large numbers of them must have died when quite young. When we consider the conditions under which the children of the peasant farmers and field laborers must have been born and reared, especially infant mortality was very great. Those who survived their childhood were made to help their fathers and uncles in the labors of the field, and to do as their forebears had done, that is, to collect the droppings of the animals for fuel, and to tend cattle, dig irrigation channels, and water the fields, clear out the canals, build up dikes, and serve in the corvée whenever ordered to do so, under penalty of a beating. The life of the people of this class was hard and laborious. Their food was coarse and scanty, and their amusements few. Magic and witchcraft flourished among them, and they passed their lives in constant dread of the attacks that the fiends and devils, whom they believed to exist, might make upon them. The above remarks really describe the conditions under which slaves of the field labor class lived in the days of Muhammad Ali and his immediate successors, but there is reason to think that they were equally applicable to the slaves of the kings and nobles in all periods of Egyptian history. The children of the king were educated in the palace, and schoolfellows and playmates were chosen for them from among the families of the official classes. There they learned to read and to write and to copy and understand the meaning of the texts that were selected for them to study. Those among the people, generally who wished their children to be educated, sent them to one of the schools that were maintained out of the temple revenues and were directed by the priests. The king and nobles who possessed argic estates were obliged to employ a number of educated youths and men to keep their accounts and manage their farms, and these studied arithmetic and land surveying, and every subject of which a knowledge was necessary for the performance of their duties in a satisfactory manner. Such men were compelled to be expert scribes and to have a good knowledge of practical farming and the market values of farming products. The prosperity of Egypt depended upon successful agriculture. The various priesthoods of Egypt also were large landowners and possessed much property, and they educated scribes in considerable numbers, not only to keep accounts of their temples, but also to copy religious texts and to keep registers of the offerings made to the entities, and to draft the inscriptions that were to be cut on the temples and painted in the tombs. Boys were sent to school when they were about 4 years of age, and the period of their education lasted for 10 or 12 years. There is no evidence that the schools for girls existed, and it's not probable that they did. Whilst at school, it seems that a boy was taught in the subjects that would be most useful to him in the career that his father had decided he should follow, for the Egyptian father was eminently practical and had little desire that his son should receive what may be described as a general education.